Nowadays, everyone thinks of themselves and we expect people to help us out and drop anything they're doing at the time. But we hardly expect anyone to give back from what they have received, and that is just a dirty shame. Many of you think that the things that get done around the community are just supposed to happen, but who does those things, and how do those things get done? Well, it is people who volunteer and devote their time to the community and expect nothing in return. I myself have done community service, and I know what it takes, and I have seen the rewards of it. I have gone out to Kentucky, worked in the holler, worked on trailer homes, made those trailer homes livable because the people living in them, it was rotten out, and it was a horrible way to live. My proposition as a UW Stout student is that us as UW Stout students should participate in community service at least once during the school year, and if not that, once during the year, and if not that, once in our lifetime. The three main points I will mention in the speech are that community service is good for you, what volunteering is, and what it does for your community, and lastly, what you learn from doing community service. First off, I'm going to talk about why community service is good for you. Well, community service can help you relieve stress, or at least reduce the stress that you are dealing with. This is a stress reducer because you know that you are doing a good deed, and it helps you think of something else other than the issues that you are dealing with at the time. Even volunteering your time for just a little bit to help someone else out and put that smile on their face will make you feel like an incredible person and is well worth it. I think there's no better feeling than knowing that you made a difference in your community or in someone else's life by just volunteering a part of your day towards helping out. Doing deeds like volunteering and or community service can also make you healthier, because a lot of the things you do for community service is physical activity. It can make you healthier by, usually when you're doing community service, you have a feeling of joy and such, and that can make your immune system healthier. Secondly, I'm going to discuss what community service is and what it does for your community. Community service and volunteering helps bring a community together and helps the families and everyone who is living in that area. It affects everyone, from the babies in your community to the toddlers, to the teenagers, to the midlife crisis people, and even the newcomers in the area. Community service and volunteering can range from a variety of things. It can go from tutoring at schools, helping the elderly out on bingo night or something, and picking up trash. Like, I'm in 4-H and we have a trash pickup every other month. If you live in a small town like I do, or you live in Menominee, Menominee's not very big, community service will make your community more tightly knit, especially when you know the people you are volunteering with. And those people may know other people. You get to meet them. And it just helps out that you know people that you're volunteering with. It makes it more fun. After that, it seems like you know half the community or more. It helps to have a big group to volunteer with because it makes it more fun to do things with the people that you know. But according to Misty Small from John Leonard High on March 12, 1997, a generation ago, it seemed that community service was a punishment imposed on juvenile offenders. Well, I think this view has changed a lot because now many young people and even old people volunteer their time to helping people in the community. Many young people volunteer their time for scholarships because it looks good or may even be a requirement. Some schools nowadays even require an amount of community service hours before you can graduate. Even though this may sound like a hassle to you as a person, and at the time, after you look back on it, it is well worth it once you see the benefits of it. According to an article on wisegeek.org published in 2003, when someone performs an action which benefits his or her community, it is known as community service. There are certain corporations that are devoted to doing community service, such as I know a lot of you have heard of them. It's the Habitat for Humanity. They build homes in low-income areas. Now, what do you learn from doing community service? Well, community service can help you learn about yourself in many different ways. First off, it can make you realize what good you can do and what it feels like to do good deeds. You can also learn talents about yourself that you may not have known, such as building things. You can get a social grasp on certain areas of the community and people. And finally, it'll help you to see how you perceive things. Many people change their view of themselves after doing community service, and they realize that giving back will benefit back to them in some shape or form. When doing community service, you learn more about your community. For instance, maybe you grew up in a part of town where the trash was picked up all the time, the lawns were groomed, and it just looked good. But in another part of town where you don't often go, you may have to do community service one day. There's trash everywhere, and it may seem like a dump to you. But this is what we have to deal with, and this is where community service comes in. You can also learn how community events are set up and what it takes to set those events up, how many people it takes. Not a lot of those people get paid. A lot of it is volunteer time. You will learn how the businesses in your community sponsor events, and you can learn about the general knowledge of how everything works in your community and how it all ties together to make things work. Today, we can all do a good deed and do some volunteering or some community service. Now that you have learned and heard why it's good for you, what it does for your community, and what you learn from doing community service. Well, most of us UW Stout students always say we have so much going on, but if we can just do a little bit here and there of community service and for a community or other people, we can do a huge difference and you should try to do your best to do so. The problem with community service is that it is always looked up as being lame and people think of it as uncool, but once you actually do some and realize its benefits, it is way worth the effort that you have to put in.